Hey there, everybody. I want to take a minute and get some questions, comments answered. And I haven't been getting to my emails, comments lately because I've been just real busy doing renderings and trying to get some proposals that all kind of hit at the same time. But I finally got a gap here, and I'm really eager to keep going with the Mural Joe live. And we're going to add a new location. Me and Scott are going to be broadcasting that out of his garage over there on the other side of town, and then I'm going to continue to go down to the mothership and do live paint sessions every so often. I'm going to move all of those to Saturday mornings. That's the goal, is to get it all on Saturday morning. And once a week, every Saturday, I'm going to make it Q&A Saturday. We're going to sit down and focus on getting comments and questions reviewed. So I get a lot of questions to my email, and I love answering those, but I am going to have to restrict it to once a week that I actually respond to these the questions that I get. But please don't stop sending the questions. I'm going to go through some of these right now. So we've got Kathleen O'Neill sent this to my email. This is in the context of a conversation asking about some paint products. She says, "Thank you for your response. I was looking into the Modern Masters faux glaze, and I found a tintable glaze and an extender. I just want to be clear of which one is right, because their website states not to tint the glaze with paint. And one more question, do you have any suggestions to books or other learning tools to help me learn more about techniques? Thanks for all your help." Well, thanks for the email, Kathleen, but I don't know any books off the top of my head. You see, I didn't read a lot of books growing up. I spent all my time drawing pictures in school. I'm really a terrible reader. And I do remember, though, that there was one book that I thought was really clever called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. Maybe you can Google that title. And I remember some diagrams in that book and some exercises that were teaching you how to recognize the shapes that you see rather than drawing what you know. And that is the key to drawing, is being able to draw what you see rather than what you know. So rather than drawing the smiley face because you know there's two eyes, a nose, and a mouth, you draw the triangular shape of eye sockets, you draw maybe the triangular shape of the nose, you draw the mouth. You're looking at proportions and boundaries. I can't think of another book. I had another one. Maybe I can post that in another video. But any books that really get in depth about what makes things look the way they do. If you find books that are about drawing facial expressions, that'll really work your brain over. That would be a good one. I had one that my dad gave to me, but I can't remember the title right now. But here's another question that she says about this Modern Masters. See, I have this can of it with me. So this is what she's talking about. Modern Masters tintable glaze. This, let me differentiate between tintable and what you would mix with paint. You definitely can mix this with paint. I know that she says that they said don't mix it with paint. But that is just because it becomes only half of their product if you do that. You know, it's half some other paint brand and then half their product. So they're not going to recommend that you mix their product with someone else's product. However, all of them being water-based products, you can mix them all together. They harden, they dry fine. You're not going to run into any problems. But the thing you will run into is mixing it with paint. You will not get the same concentration. So this is a transparent product. Let me open this up and show you what it looks like. Oh yeah, this is a brand new bottle. I try to keep these laying around. So it's kind of like Elmer's glue. You go, see this white right here? So this is it's like a clear drawing kind of Elmer's glue texture, but a lot runnier. A typical faux glaze, but this has 1 hour open time. That means that it doesn't dry and harden up for a whole hour, and that's also really dependent on the climate. Like here in Flagstaff, Arizona, it's very dry. So that hour might be taken down to 30 minutes here, but it's still a long time compared to other water-based products. If you tint it, now these are tints. See all these bottles behind me in this rack? So this is a brand called Cal Tint. And let me get one that you can read. Yeah, this yellow here is good. Cal Tint is company that makes universal tints. You can tint oil-based or water-based paint with these, and I carry them around all the time. There's another one, Proline is the other one that I carry around in this rack if I can get my hands on them. They are not to be confused with paint. This is only tint. So if I put this on a wall, it's not going to harden. It'll eventually dry, but I'll always be able to wipe it off with a wet rag. And it's kind of like a dye, but it's a tint that this is the same thing they put in the paint at the paint store. When you say, I want this color off the chart, then they take it behind the counter and then they take the machine and they shoot all the colors in it. This is what they're shooting in it. Just their own version of tint. So this is what we're talking about when we say tint. And that is what this is made to take, is tint. Notice that there's not a whole ton of space in there because it doesn't take a lot of tint to influence this color. If you color this with tint, your heavy spots will be, if it's a dark color, they'll be darker. If it's a light color, they'll be lighter. It's going to be more bold. It's going to be bolder. It's going to be closer to the actual tint itself in color. Whereas if you mix it with paint, then the paint already has a base that the tint is diluted in, so you will not get the intensity of color because you're diluting it even more when you put it in this. Whereas if, say, you put a brown tint in this, you'll have very dark tones on the heavy spots and very light tones where it's rubbed thin because this is a transparent base. Hopefully you know what I'm saying here. It's especially handy for doing wood tone, wood graining, because you get all those variations. You can kind of see they have a picture on the label of that is the kind of thing this is probably best for. You get a lot of variation, a lot of contrast when you just use tint rather than paint. My point is you can use either. You can tint it with paint, you can tint it with tints. Now, let's see, did I answer that whole question? I know I missed a lot when I was doing that last show it live. Found an extender. I actually use this as an extender because it has an hour open time and you can mix it with any other thing. It's water-based, you can mix it. Because it has an hour open time, it does make a good extender. So I'll just dip the brush in this and then be painting on the wall. I've got my paint. If it starts tacking up, I'll just dip the brush in this and put it on there. I do the exact same thing with Floetrol. Floetrol is the other thing I use in another video, Common Questions, I posted on my channel, where I talk about the use of Floetrol. It's the same kind of thing, but Floetrol is a lot runnier, and it's designed to, it's more designed for contracting, where you're painting and you don't want to get a lot of brush lines and things. That makes it flow out smoother, and it extends the dry time so you don't get all the texture from tacky paint. But same idea on both of those. That one's just thicker, and you can do different techniques if you're like ragging it or doing something else like that. Let's move on to the next question. Jan Burke has made a comment on Mural Joe Live. Awesome trailer. Put your URLs in the info. We loyal YouTube followers are lazy. And I think I posted on there. Thank you for that. She's right. You know, I need to get better at posting that link on those, in those descriptions. I know exactly how that is too, man. I just pass stuff up. If the link's not posted right there for me, I'm not going to be typing it in the address bar. Let's go to another one here. We've got 7. It's hard to say these usernames. That's going to be the funnest part of this. 7 I know has made a comment on Live Mural Joe. Neat ideas. Wow, inspiring work. I was wondering, how do you handle the challenge of painting on a textured surface, e.g. brick? Good question. Well, you gotta have runny paint. I mean, if you got a real textured wall, that's why it's real hard to do big murals with oil-based paint, because oil-based paint doesn't just flow out on the wall all nice and quick. You know, the water-based paint, you just get a big brush and it just whoosh, goes right across the wall. But oil-based is it's a lot stickier. Even though it stays wet for longer, it's a lot stickier. So the water-based paint is key. Always keep those extenders, like I just talked about, on hand, and having good brushes. Good brushes, you know, those contractor brushes. I like to use Purdy, but there's other brands that make the same kinds. Those are real valuable so that you can dab it and get it into pockets in the texture. Here's another thing to be aware of if you're doing a mural and you have a picture. If there's an important part of the picture, like a person's face, maybe their eyes, something that's going to look bad, if a brick line goes right through the middle of it, be aware of that when you're planning your mural out, that you're not going to put someone's face in a place where the line of a brick is going to go through it. Strategically put your important details on the smoother areas on something like a brick wall. Mr. Paul, 1896, has made a comment on how to draw eyebrows. Mural Joe, hi, I just started watching, and you do draw very well indeed. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Well, it'll be nice to pick up some tips from you. Okay, well, I'll give you a few tips. When you're drawing is all about recognizing the boundaries around different values. So if you look at my face right now, you can see a general boundary area that's brighter from the window light coming in. You can see this boundary area, so that's what I mean when I say boundaries. Look for boundary lines. So if you were to find a splotch on my face and then draw a border around that, that's kind of what you're doing when you're drawing. You're recognizing the boundaries that things are in and then trying to do a real nice job of filling those out without drawing the line itself a lot of the time. Drawing is all about lines and shapes, whereas painting has a lot more to do with getting an idea by using the colors and values. Drawing, you don't have color, and you're very restricted on values because you can only go gray to white. You can't even go to black when you're using a typical pencil. It's very hard to get something as dark as a real shadow and something as bright as an actual light. It's, well, impossible. So the biggest focus on drawing is definitely the lines. So learning the shapes of things, disciplining your mind to see shapes of things is key. So on that, how to draw eyes, eyebrows, I've just looked at eyes so many times, drawn them so many times, that I've learned where those guidelines are. Knowing what the universal guidelines that are on every eye, knowing what those are, helps me to have the freedom to make my own, so that if I wanted to draw an eyeball right now, I don't need to look at a picture. And that's a very handy skill to have if you're doing renderings for a job. You want to move quickly. You don't want to have to reference photographs for every little thing that you draw. So a lot of memorization. Remember shapes. Everything is shapes. You got to turn your brain into a 3D modeling shape machine. You know what I mean? So we got Payod Panda has made a comment on how to draw eyebrows. The eyebrows go swoosh, 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 and then they go foosh, foosh, foosh. Loved the video. You had me engrossed to full length. I'm looking to improve how I sketch the eyebrow. I bet this will help. I like that comment a lot. Next, we've got, here's another one from Jim Burke. On the live broadcast, could you show examples of initial design sketches that you presented to clients, especially for mural projects you have covered in YouTube videos? Or would you work up a design sketch for what you will be working on live today? And I'm telling you, I like boldness. She does not hesitate to ask, will you please draw up a plan of what you work? Now, I don't get paid to do these shows, so it's very hard for me to work up a plan for something I'll be doing that day. But I do appreciate that comment. However, I did bring these. So look, this is what I'm going to turn in right now. Let me show you this. This is a proposal I'll be turning in today to the Safe Child Center over at the Flagstaff Medical Center. And I'm going to get this closer so you can see. This is what a lot of my initial renderings look like. Just pencil and then a little bit of pen lines. Let me get this closer so that you can see what's going on here. So this is a kid's playroom, and look, we've got bighorn sheep in the background, native boy riding a horse next to a girl who's not native. Then this is the inside, so this is the window of the wall, and there's a hogan, you know, you're kind of inside of a hogan there. There's an eagle in the sky, and then there's, you know, there's different items in here that were important to them for various reasons as I met with the planning committee for the job. You can see on that rendering it's a lot of pencil and a lot of pen. So my initial renderings look like that because that's real quick and easy for me to draw things out. But then if someone's paying me to do a more extensive